Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 9 got off to a start with a bang. Thursday night football. Cincinnati Bengals traveling out to Miami to take on the Miami Dolphins. I broke this game down in the preview, and you know what? I'm so frustrated right now because I feel like a woman scorned. All right. I broke this game down to a T. I mean, to the most minute detail. I broke this thing down in exact science. And I basically regurgitated what I thought would happen in this game. But yet, because I was burned by these very Dolphins earlier in the season, thinking that they would turn this thing around and they haven't, because I was burned by the Arizona Cardinals 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football when I went out on a limb and picked them to get it done on Thursday night, and they didn't at home. I wouldn't allow myself to pick the Dolphins even though I thought they had a good shot at winning this game. Remember what I said at the top of the preview for this game. Remember what I said. This is the ultimate trap game here. And if you're Cincinnati, you can't fall into the trap. Everybody's telling you how good you are. You're a Super Bowl contender. Andy Dalton is starting to get it. This was a trap game. You're red hot. The Dolphins are ice cold. This was a trap game. I said the Dolphins had their backs against the wall. They could not afford to go to 3-5 or their season was finished. This was a trap game. And I said all of those things, and I still went against what I thought because I felt like a woman scorned. I felt like I had been let down by these very Dolphins. I felt like I had been let down by the Arizona Cardinals. I felt like I had been let down by teams who I picked to win in the past to get it done against teams that struggle on the road but are very good football teams. I've been let down too many times, and I said I can't go down that route again. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose being a part of the majority and not the minority. And instead of me going with my gut, I went with my head. My head said, hey, do the smart thing here. Go with the hot football team in the Cincinnati Bengals. But in my heart, I wanted to pick the Miami Dolphins, and I did not. And they showed up and they did exactly what I thought they would do in this game. Now, did I think they would win? I wasn't sure. But I felt good enough about them to pick them, but I couldn't pull the trigger. I didn't have big enough kahunas, all right? My balls weren't big enough. And maybe I need to grow a new set. Maybe I need to grow a new pair. Because this was one of those ones where I should have went out on a limb and picked the Dolphins. But this was a heck of a football game. I said that the Bengals needed to be able to take that initial punch from the Dolphins. They were down 17-3, and they fought back. Let's break this thing on down and talk about this game as it unfolded through the eyes of me, Louie T. So, 6-2 Bengals at the 3-4 Miami Dolphins. Big matchup for both teams. Look, Cincinnati, I said I needed to see more from this team on the road. I needed validation. I needed you to prove to me that you could get it done on the road against a quality opponent. You beat Detroit, you beat Buffalo, whoopity-doo. But I need to see more. This Dolphins team, they're 3-4, they're struggling. And look, I said all you needed to do was deliver the knockout blow. They were wobbly, they were on the ropes, they were staggering, they were hanging on for dear life. You come in with a thunderous right hand, they're going down and they're not getting up off the canvas. But this is a resilient football team, and I said you had to come in and give them your best shot because they were going to give you theirs. They didn't have anything to lose. They don't win this game, it's done. And again, a lot of football left to be played in this season, but I'm here to make big, bold statements. And if they go to 3-5, and look, there isn't going to be 2 playoff teams from this division, I don't think. We already know that the AFC West is going to have a minimum of 2 playoff participants. That being the Broncos and the Chiefs. We know that off the top. So now you got to start asking yourself, hey, is San Diego good enough to go? What about the Oakland Raiders? Who knows? There are other teams around the AFC that are vying and looking to get their hands on that sixth and final playoff berth. And it's a long ways away. Again, I don't like talking about the playoff. I don't like using the P word this early in the season. But again, we're at week 9. We're at the halfway mark now. So after week 9, just about every team in the league would have played at least 8 games. So we're at the midway point. So you got to start thinking about using the P word now. And for the Dolphins, this was a must-have game if they wanted to start using the P word. And so Bengals, Dolphins, Andy Dalton stripped of the football by Cameron Wake, and he had a monster game to Cameron Wake. They needed this. They needed a type of performance that they got out of Cameron Wake in this game. Wake recovers, but the Fins squander field position as Khalid Sturgis misses from 34 yards. Look, when your team's struggling and you're searching for answers and you're searching and trying to get a win, you're probing and you're trying to do everything in your power to get a win, you can't miss a 34-yard field goal. You just can't. At home, you got some momentum, you get a sack, you force a turnover, get that field goal, get those points, get some momentum. Can't miss that field goal. That's why you're 3-4 at this point, because of plays like this. This can come back to haunt you. And if you lose this game, that field goal just might come back to haunt you, because that's 3 points that you should have been able to put in the bank. Instead, it's still a 0-0 football game. Cincinnati gets on the board first with a Mike Nugent field goal. It's 3-0, so Cincinnati jumps out on top. They went down the field. Their drive stalled out right around the fringe of the red zone. They take the field goal, and they were able to do what the Dolphins weren't able to do, convert on a chip shot field goal, so now it's 3-0. Dolphins get the football back, and right here on a little side note, Dolphins put together a beautiful drive, and they ran the football so effectively, and I talked about that in the preview. I said, look, run the football. Take some pressure off of Tannehill. You're asking him to do too much. He's making mistakes. Take pressure off of him by running the football. You've run the football well over the last couple of weeks. You started out the season. You didn't have a running game to speak of. All of a sudden, last week against New England, you ran the football well. You ran it well in this game. Run the football. And to start this game off, Lamar Miller was getting about 5 a pop. I mean, literally, every carry was 5 yards or better. And so he was moving the football. He was running the football. They were blocking well. And he breaks off a beautiful run. Cuts it out to the outside, off the right tackle. Gets outside, stops on the dime, cuts back across the field. He's got a touchdown, folks. He's got a touchdown. I don't know what the hell Lamar Miller was thinking when he decided to cut off of his blocker to get back inside where the Cincinnati Bengals defenders were coming from. If you're a smart running back at this point, use the rest of the field. You're at the right hash mark. You've got all of that green outside of you. If you just run laterally that way to the pylon, no one is going to catch you. You will walk into the end zone. For some reason, and I can't fathom why, he decided to cut back inside to where the Cincinnati Bengals defenders were. Carlos Dunlap running and hustling on the play. Remember, keep in mind, this is a big 295-pound defensive end running about 40 yards down the field. He comes in with a beautiful tomahawk. Boom! Ball comes out, pops up into the air. Adam Jones recovers the fumble, runs it back out about 45 yards. Nothing. You get nothing for your troubles if you are Miami. Beautiful drive. You look like you're about to get 7, and Lamar Miller makes one bad decision, one bad cut. Instead of just stringing this thing on out to the pylon, walk in the end zone. I don't know what he was thinking here. Fumbles the football, no points for the Dolphins. That hurts. Again, another costly mistake. When your team's struggling, lost 4 games in a row, you're at home, you want to give the crowd something to cheer about, you want to get momentum on your side, you can't make mistakes like that. So, early in the game, 2 costly mistakes by the Dolphins already. So, big third down drop by A.J. Green. And look, I need A.J. Green, and he was spectacular in this game. 11 catches. He was huge in this game. But this was a big drop. And look, every now and again, you're going to have lapses in concentration. Guys aren't going to catch every single ball that is thrown in their direction. But on third down, I need you. If you're going to drop the football, drop it on first down. Drop it on second down. Please, AJ. You are the man. Don't drop the football on third down. On this play in particular, you didn't need to jump. The corner had fell down. I don't know if you knew that or not. I don't know if you could see the corner slipping out of his break. So maybe you felt like jumping would shield you and the ball away from the defender. I don't know what your thinking was, but you didn't need to jump on that play. Stay on your feet. I think jumping caused you to drop that football. Stay on your feet, catch the football. Look, he's AJ Green, and we all know you're not fully green unless you're AJ Green. And he was money in this game, but that drop was costly. And again, on the road, you're trying to get a win. You got a team on the ropes. You were driving for points. You were right on the fringe of field goal range. You catch this football. You pick up the first down. Who knows? This drive could turn into 7. Even if you don't gain another yard after you catch this football, you're in field goal range. Again, costly drop. And this is why. After that drop, you punt the football on a possession that you probably should have gotten points out of. And the Dolphins proceed to go on an 11-play, 93-yard drive, capped by a 1-yard Ryan Tannehill touchdown at 7-3. So, see that momentum swing there? You go from being in field goal position, if you catch that football, picking up a first down, possibly turning that into a touchdown drive, to you having to punt, and the Dolphins turning that into a 93-yard touchdown drive. Boom, a shift in momentum. So, on the road, you got to make things happen. You can't have these type of plays go against you. This was an unforced error. Catch the football. So Dalton throws an interception right before the half. Demetri Patterson makes a play on the football. And he essentially wrestled the football away from the receiver on the play. And that sets up a Khalid Sturgis field goal right before the half. It's 10-3 Cincinnati. It's 10-3 Miami going into the half. So, big play by the Dolphins. That's Dalton's first interception of the game, his second turnover. So, right here, you're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals coming out, and I said they were going to have to absorb the Dolphins' initial blow. And here we go. Dolphins up 10-3 at the half. If you're Cincinnati, you've played some sloppy football in the first half. You're only down 7. You get the ball after the half, take it, go down the field, get something. Whether it's a field goal, a touchdown, to tie it up, get something, and you're right back in this game. You're only down a touchdown anyway. Even if you don't get anything, you're still in this game. For how sloppy you have played in this first half, you should be happy to only be down 7. I mean, we're talking 2 turnovers. We're talking drop passes. We're talking about the Dolphins gashing you on the ground. Lamar Miller having a field day, almost 100 yards rushing in the first half for Lamar Miller. He had 96 yards rushing at the half. And so you were absolutely being obliterated on the ground, and yet you're only down 10-3. So if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you got to feel good about where you are because you should be down by more for how poorly you played in the first half. And on that touchdown drive by the Dolphins, Geno Atkins goes down. And it looked bad. Anytime you go down and you're not touched, and he was contacted on that play, but it wasn't like someone fell on his legs or anything like that. He didn't hyperextend it. You could look. His leg just buckled under his pressure of his body weight. Anytime you see someone just buckle under the pressure of their own body weight, you start thinking ACL or Achilles, and then you want to see where they're grabbing at. If they're grabbing at the knee, you're thinking ACL. If they're grabbing at the ankle, you're thinking Achilles. He couldn't walk. So right there, I'm thinking ACL. Because you can't walk. Normally, guys don't walk off on ACLs. You can. I've seen guys get up, walk off. The next day, you find out they tore their ACL. But he was grabbing at the knee. He needed help. Sounds like an ACL to me. And sure enough, I see him getting carted off. That's not a good sign. Turns out to be a torn ACL. So I talked about this in the preview for this game. I said Bengals need to stay relatively healthy. But the injuries on the defensive side of the football are starting to mount. Now they're starting to mount up. You look at Geno Atkins leaving this game. No Ray Mataluga in this game. You already came into this game without the services of Leon Hall, who's out for the season with his own torn ACL. So injuries are starting to mount up for this Cincinnati Bengals team. You got to start persevering, next man up. But look, he's one of the most talented defensive tackles in the league. You can't just replace a Geno Atkins. Hopefully, a number of guys can step in his place and try to fill that void. But that's a huge loss for this football team. So we come out of the half. Cincinnati comes out of the half and puts together a masterful drive. But, and here we go again, another mistake by the Cincinnati Bengals. This one was a huge one. This is a costly one. But on 3rd and 3 from the 10-yard line, Andy Dalton makes his third mistake of the night, throws his second pick. This time, Brent Grimes is the recipient. And this time, it's a 93-yard TD to the house. Pick 6. And this was a simple case of Andy Dalton making the right decision, making the right read, making a bad throw. Great play call, bad execution. Okay? They run the out route on 3rd and 3 to pick up 5 and get the first down, move the sticks. The receiver is open. If Andy Dalton puts this ball outside where it belongs, it's a completion. At worst, it's a drop and you're kicking a field goal. Instead, he puts this ball on the inside of the receiver behind him, allows Brent Grimes, who's trailing on the play, to make a play on the football. And much like Demetri Patterson at the end of the second quarter, he reaches in, strips the football away from the intended receiver. On this play, it was Marvin Jones, takes the ball from him and takes off to the house, 93 yards, touchdown. Wow, 17-3. What a turn of events. You're going in for points of your own. It turns into Dolphins points again, much like that A.J. Green drop that turned into a drive for the Dolphins. You're down 17-3. And if you're Miami, you can look at it one of two ways. We got this game. We need to play solid football and secure this victory. Or you can look at it like we were up 17-3 last week and we blew the lead. Oh my gosh, here we go again. So it's two ways you can go from here. You can go the oh my gosh route, or you could go the hey, let's go win this football game route. So from the point of view of the Cincinnati Bengals, you got to get it done. You got to find a way to scratch, claw, and pull this thing on out. Because at the end of the day, you took their best punch now. You're down 17-3. And you've played sloppy football, as sloppy as you could play, and you're still in this football game. You need to find a way to battle back, get in this game, and look, one possession at a time, one score at a time, to try to get back into this football game. So if you're the Dolphins, you got to hold on. If you're Cincinnati, you got to find a way to scratch and claw and get back into this football game. It's still early. Dolphins haven't had the football in the second half. It's about a good 9 or 10 minutes left in the third quarter. You've got time. Don't panic. Don't abandon the running game. Play sound defense. See if you can force some turnovers, some Dolphin mistakes. Score points when they're there to be scored. And convert on third downs. Catch the football. Make some things happen. Stop turning the football over. Get back into this football game. So that's where they were at this juncture of the game. Timeout. So that was a 30-second timeout. I'm back. So we pick up where we left off. So they're down 17-3. After that lengthy drive, they get nothing to show for it. In fact, the Dolphins take advantage of that drive and get their own points. So now you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, and they get back on the field, and now they feel like, okay, here we go. We got to get something jump-started. And that spark for them was Giovanni Bernard. Gio Bernard came in, and this Dolphins defense had to be tired because, again, I think they made mention of it during the telecast. This defense was on the field for, close to, if not over 100 plays in this game. They were starting to wear down. And coming out of the half, Cincinnati put together a lengthy drive. Now, it was picked off for a touchdown, but what that drive did is it set up the events to come. They kept them on the field for about a good 6 or 7 minutes on this opening drive that yielded a Dolphins pick six and gave them a 17-3 lead. But guess what? When you pick it off and you take it to the house, guess what you got to do? You got to come right back on the field and play defense now. You don't get rewarded by getting a break on the sideline. You get rewarded by coming back out on the field again and needing to get another stop. So what happened here was Giovanni Bernard comes into the game. This Miami Dolphins defense is gassed. Your end result is an 12-play, 80-yard touchdown drive to cut the deficit to 17-10 as Giovanni Bernard gets into the end zone on a 3-yard run. And he was the star of that drive. They ran the football. They tossed it down to him on some checkdowns. He did it all on that possession. And they moved the ball right down the field with ease. And it was a little to no resistance from this Dolphins defense because they were gassed. They had been on the field all second half. After this drive here, the second of the half of the Cincinnati Bengals, they showed a stat that the Dolphins hadn't run any offensive plays, and the time of possession for that quarter was something like 9 minutes and some change for the Cincinnati Bengals to nothing for the Dolphins. So this defense had been on the field for essentially 10 minutes of game time, which amounts to about a good 30 to 35 minutes of real time. So they were gassed. So 10-17 now, you've cut into that lead. You're back in the football game if you're Cincinnati. If you're Miami, here we go again. Offense getting the football. They're well rested. They need to come out and establish something. Do something. If nothing else, move the football, pick up a couple of first downs, punt, and pin these guys deep. Flip the field position. So they punt the football. They come out. They do nothing on offense to the Dolphins. Bengals get the football back. And then Giovanni Bernard puts together a highlight reel run of 35 yards, getting into the end zone to knot the game up at 17. And this is one of the most beautiful runs you'll see. It was a gorgeous cutback. First of all, this play highlighted something that I saw in this game too often. Tyler Eifert can't block. And for all of the things he can do in the passing game and the mismatches he creates, he had a tough time blocking in this game. And I don't know if that's indicative of him as a blocker overall. Look, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I've watched this guy. He can block a little bit, but I don't think he's necessarily the guy you want blocking at the point of attack if you are the Cincinnati Bengals. He missed on so many blocks in this game. A couple of times when Dalton was flushed out of the pocket, it was because he missed a block. On this play, he was supposed to block. He was supposed to be the guy that set the edge in this particular run, and he just whiffed. He just flat out whiffed. And Giovanni Bernard was getting hit by two Dolphin defenders, spins off of those guys, keeps his balance, reverses field, and picks up a couple of blockers. Essentially, this thing turned into a punt return. Andy Dalton was leading the way. He stiff arms another Dolphin defender, gets behind that convoy of Cincinnati Bengal blockers, cuts it back, makes a beautiful cutback, which is what Lamar Miller should have done. Cut back against the grain and keep it straight out instead of cutting back in. And, stumbles, dives into the end zone. It's now 17-all, and at this point, I'm thinking, if you get even, you're leaving. And so I'm thinking the Dolphins are going to lose this football game because in their mind, they're starting to go, here we go again. We were just like this last week. Up 17-3, up big, blew the lead, lost the game. You were up 17-3 in this game, up big, you blow the lead. Here comes the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got all the momentum in this game. I thought they caught him. Now they're going to leave him. And I thought Miami, they were done in this football game. And just when I thought that the Cincinnati Bengals were going to run away because the Dolphins punted the football once again, and Cincinnati picked right where they left off at. They picked right up where they left off. And again, this Dolphins defense was exhausted. They aren't getting any help from their offense. They're not sustaining drives. And this Cincinnati Bengals team is getting on the field and they're putting together lengthy drives, keeping this defense on the field. And they're tired. So they're moving the football down the field, and Andy Dalton throws his third interception of the game. And this one, to me, was the game changer here. This was the game changer because if you get points here, whether it's a field goal, and they were moving the ball, they were looking to get a touchdown. I mean, they had scored 2 touchdowns on their previous 2 drives. They're looking to make it 3 out of 3. And Mohamed Sanu struggled in this game. He struggled in this game. He had some costly drops. I'll talk about him a little bit later, but this third pick, the first 2 were Dalton's fault. He threw the ball inside on both of those picks, allowed the defender to recover and make a play on the ball when they shouldn't have had a shot on those first 2. On this one, you can't throw the football any better. It was bracket coverage, 2 defenders in front, 1 behind. He put the ball over top of the 2 defenders in the front, right between the defender and behind. It was a gorgeous throw. I mean, he threw this one on a rope. You couldn't have went and handed it to Mohamed Sanu any better. He breastfed him, essentially. He breastfed him the football, and Mohamed Sanu decided to play Butterfingers and bobbled the football about 2 or 3 times. And then Jimmy Wilson laid the wood on him. Ball pops up in the air. Now L.A.B, one of those defenders out in front of the play. Johnny on the spot. Ball lands right in his hands. Pick. And he caught this ball at about the 12-yard line. So that lets you know that the Cincinnati Bengals were driving for points. Huge play in this game because, again, the Dolphins needed this play. They needed to get off the field defensively. They were exhausted, and they needed to stop Cincinnati from scoring points, and they needed some momentum because Uncle Mo was on the sideline of the Cincinnati Bengals, and he was comfortable. He had himself a hot dog, a couple of pretzels, a bag of chips, and a drink. And he was living it up on the Cincinnati Bengals sideline. And so that interception made him jump ship, and it got this Dolphins defense a much-needed breather. And it took points off the board. Let's face it. At this point, it's tied at 17. You need to keep this game tied if you are the Miami Dolphins. So that was a huge play in the game. To me, that was the game-changing play right there because you can't have that ball come off your hands if you're Mohamed Sanu, pop into the air and be picked off. Not on a beautiful throw like that. Not when you're in scoring position. Not when you have everything in the game going for you. You got to catch that football. So that was a huge play. And on the very next possession for the Cincinnati Bengals, this was a big turn of events too. Giovanni Bernard goes down. Looks like some kind of neck/chest injury. He ducked his head down. It looked like a harmless play. On about a 1-yard gain, he ducks his head down, gets hit. But I think he might have caught a stinger or jammed his neck because he was having trouble breathing. So you could tell he was in some pain. He ended up going to the locker room, did not return to the game. And that proved to be huge, too, because he was dominating in the second half for the Cincinnati Bengals. So that was a huge loss. That took some explosion away from them at a time when they needed a guy to make a play. So that was a huge play in the game. Bengals moved the ball down the field in the latter stages of the game, but elect to throw the ball on 3rd and 4. To me, I don't necessarily disagree with that decision. Hindsight is 20/20. You could say, oh, that's a bad decision, but at this point in the game, you're moving the football, you're looking to get into field goal range. I don't disagree with the decision to throw, but you need 4 yards. They decided to chuck it deep to Marvin Jones on about a 45-yard throw. Why? You need 4 yards. Find someone for 5 yards and move the sticks if you're going to throw the ball. Give me a safe throw that's going to continue to run the clock. On the first 2 downs, you ran the football. You made the Dolphins use 2 of their 3 timeouts. Either you make them use the 3rd timeout by running the football and kicking the field goal, which is what you ultimately ended up doing anyway because of the incomplete pass. So either you run the football, make them use their last timeout, or you complete a short pass and try to pick up the 1st down so that you can eat up the rest of this clock and kick the game-winning field goal. Either way, that's one of your 2 options. You don't need to go for the home run and the touchdown here. That's not necessary. You either pick up the 1st down or you make the Dolphins use their last timeout. One or the other. But you can't pick option C, none of the above, and then kick the field goal because what you have done essentially is you've allow the Dolphins to hold on to a precious timeout at this point. Time is of the essence. So them being able to hold on to one of their timeouts, huge. A huge turn of events. And you're going to have to kick a 54-yard field goal now. Now, Mike Nugent can kick it, but now you've opened the door for the Dolphins to, at a minimum, tie this game, probably even win it because of the time remaining on the clock. There's about a minute and 3 or 7 seconds left on the clock after your drive is done, and they have a timeout. So you really didn't put a lot of pressure on them by allowing them to hold on to that last timeout. Didn't really like Dalton's decision to chuck it deep on 3rd and 4. Pick up the first down or run the ball. Keep it in play. Either way, make the Dolphins use that last timeout. So Mike Nugent comes in, and this is a clutch kick. This is as clutch as it gets. 54 yards on the road, crowd in your ear, nothing. Mike Nugent goes in, ice water in his veins, right down the pipe. It's 20-17 with 1:43 left in the game. So look, it's a minute and 43 seconds left, and the Dolphins have a timeout. I mean, what's stopping them from going down and getting the game-time field goal or the game-winning touchdown? You didn't do enough. I thought you left too much time and too much of an opportunity to this Dolphins team to go down and tie this game up. So, Dolphins answer with a clutch drive from Tannehill and this Dolphins offense. And Brian Hartline was huge on this drive. 2 catches on this drive, none bigger than the one on the sideline where he gets his feet down, makes an acrobatic catch. I questioned whether the second foot was actually down or not, but they didn't bother to challenge it. And that had to come from the booth as it was under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. So obviously they felt like it was a catch. They didn't need to look at it again. And so that was a huge catch. That set them up in field goal range essentially. And Khalif Sturgis, I wondered if he was going to be able to shake off some of the demons. They had talked about him being one of his last 6. He was 1 for 1 in this game, so 2 of his last 7. I was wondering if he was going to be able to come in and do what Mike Nugent did and have the ice water in his veins and drill this one. They needed it to tie this game, and he was able to do it from 44 yards out. We're knotted at 20. We're going to overtime. So Cincinnati had every opportunity. As bad as they played, they had every opportunity to win this game in regulation. They blew it. So now you're in a situation where you're on the road. It's overtime. And the Dolphins win the toss. This could get ugly. Dolphins do nothing on that initial possession. Bengals get the football, and now all they need is a field goal. Being that the Dolphins already had their possession and they didn't do anything with it, you get your field goal, you win this football game. They move the ball all the way down to the fringe of field goal range. And I'm talking, 40-yard line. So as it stands, 58-yard field goal is on the table. It's 2nd and 6. And to me, after this Dalton pick, we come back to Mohamed Sanu, who was the culprit here, who was the reason for this 3rd pick and one of the game-changing plays of this game. You come back to him, 2nd and 6 from the 40-yard line. Dalton throws a beautiful out route that would have netted at minimum a 4-yard gain. 4 yards puts you at the 36, which makes it a 54-yard field goal. Mike's already pounded one of those home. So you feel comfortable sending him out there, and that's his career long. So you feel comfortable sending him out there for a 54-yard field goal. But Mohamed Sanu just could not get right in this game. And he drops that out route, beautifully thrown ball. To me, that was the play of the overtime, period. That drop pass and the next throw was an incompletion. So now you're looking at a 58-yard field goal instead of a 54. And the way that Dalton threw this football and the ball placement here, I mean, he would have caught this with the ability to turn up the field and pick up a first down. So I'm thinking he would have gained about 8 yards on this play, which would have put you at the 32, which would have made it a 50-yard field goal. If you do not gain another yard, 50 yards, Nugent can bang that home, and you can go home with a 4-game, 5-game winning streak and go to 7-2 on the season. And win a game that you had no business winning. So it was there for the taking, but Mohamed Sanu let you down once again, dropped the football. You do not complete a pass on 3rd down. Marvin Lewis makes the smart decision, decides to punt. It would have been a 58-yard field goal. You can't send Nugent out there because if he misses, the Dolphins get the football and only need 2 first downs to get in the field goal range of their own. You can't do that. Punt the ball, pin them deep, and see if you can play some defense and get the ball back in great field position. So the Dolphins answer with a clutch drive of their own. They move the football, and it was big just to move the football. And forget about points. The key here was just they caught the football on this punt at about the 10-yard line. The key here was just to move the football from the shadow of your end zone. And so they picked up a couple of first downs. They moved the football to their 40-yard line. So they're right on the fringe of field goal range, just like the Cincinnati Bengals were. They throw it up top deep to Mike Wallace, and he beats Terrence Newman, and Newman makes the smart play. Tackle him. Don't let him catch it because Mike Wallace was going to catch that ball, and not only was he going to catch it, he was going to score for the game-winning touchdown in overtime. He tackles him, pass interference at midfield. You're in business. You pick up another first down, you're at the 40-yard line, drive stalls out right there. So just like Cincinnati had elected to do, you decide to punt. Smart decision. You got to punt the football. You must punt this football and pin them deep and see if you can get a stop. And that's what they did. This ball is stopped at about the 4 or 5 yard line. And that sets up the game-winning play. Third down from about the 3 or 4 yard line. Andy Dalton drops back to pass. Doesn't like what he sees. Goes through his progressions. He's holding on to the ball way too long. Doesn't cut it loose. Cameron Wake wins on an inside move. Beats the guard, Kevin Zeitler. And gets to Andy Dalton. And you rarely see a game in overtime end on a safety, but that's what happened here. Cameron Wake was huge. 3 sacks on the game, a forced fumble, a recovery, and a safety to boot. The game-winning safety at that, as the Miami Dolphins, backs against the wall, find a way, after blowing a 14-point lead, find a way to get it done in overtime. 22-20. Huge, huge, huge win for the Miami Dolphins. I can't state that enough how big this win was. They had to happen. I mean, there was no tomorrow for this team to me. You don't win this game, I don't know where you go from here. But down. So to get this win against a quality opponent in the Cincinnati Bengals, huge win. Huge win for the Bengals. Golden opportunity to find a way to win a game. And that's what good teams do. When you play a bad football game, because you're a good team, you find a way to win. On the road, at home, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be a win. And you didn't find a way to get this one done. You did everything in your power to lose this football game. Drop passes, 3 interceptions, a fumble, a safety, you name it, a pick 6 thrown. I mean, you name it, you did it in this game. Self-inflicted wound after self-inflicted wound, and yet you still had a chance to win, but you could not get it done. And so, too many mistakes. You're on the road, you're playing good football, you come in, you lay an egg, and you still got a chance to win, but too many mistakes. You did not deserve to win this football game. You just didn't, because you made too many mistakes. Mohamed Sanu, 2 huge drops in this game. Andy Dalton, 2 bad throws, both resulting in picks. A fumble. AJ Green, huge drop on 3rd down. Too many Cincinnati Bengal mistakes. Too many miscues to win on the road. Dolphins, hey, you gave it all you had. And kudos to this defense. You were out there for way too long in this game. You played your hearts out, and it was you that won this game for this football team. Because without the Brent Grimes pick 6, without the Cameron Wake safety, I don't know if you win this football game. All of those plays that you were out there for, you got it done. And so, hats off to the Miami Dolphins for finding a way to get it done in a game that they had to have. Backs against the wall, they got it done. If you're Cincinnati, you're kicking yourself. Because not only did you have a chance to go out and get a win on the road, extend your winning streak to, I want to say 5 games, come out of here at 7-2, but you had a chance to put a stranglehold on this division. I mean, you really had a chance to put everybody on the back burner and out of your clear view in your rearview mirror. You had a chance to not see anybody. no Baltimore, no Pittsburgh, no Cleveland, nobody in the rearview mirror. You had a chance to just drive off. And instead, you left the door open. And if Baltimore comes off this bye and beats Cleveland, they're still in your rearview mirror. They're still in your rearview mirror, and you still got to play them 2 times this season. So you left the door slightly ajar. No reason to. Close the door. Shut the door behind you. You let in a draft. Instead, you left the door open. Now that cold air is coming in, and that cold air is most likely going to be the Baltimore Ravens. So, tough loss. You did it to yourself, and so you're now 6-3 on the season. Dolphins are now 4-4, and it's a much-needed win for the Dolphins after dropping 4 straight. At the start of the season 3-0, you needed this one to get back to 500. And I say this all the time. Don't talk to me unless you're 500. Well, guess what? I'm listening now because you're 4-4 in the season. You're at 500. Go ahead and talk to me. I'm listening, Miami. Big win at home. You got it done. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday night football breakdown. Come back on Friday and join me for the Pick'em Weekly and among other things. Join me on the In the Lab Room program on Friday as I wrap up this game, put a bow on it, and start to look forward to the Sunday slate of games in the National Football League and give you my picks for the weekend slate. Have a good one. See you then.